Bahamas tonight, the Northern Edition. Good evening, all. I'm Megan Shepard. Thank you so much for tuning in. Topping the news, a big environmental concern continues to unfold in the east on the grounds of Statoil Equinor. There is a significant oil spill at that oil storage terminal. Reports say the lids of oil tanks blew off during the passage of Hurricane Dorian, releasing a large quantity of oil onto the ground. Our news team visited the site today in East End and report that oil is still flowing on the ground, on the tanks, and covering vegetation. The office building is badly damaged, with the windows blown out. There was a helicopter inside the gate, and we were asked to leave the site as no officials were available for comment. Now, Environment Minister, the Honorable Romuald Ferreira, providing an update to members of the media before the weekly cabinet meeting. He says Equinor has indicated that a team has been dispatched to remediate the leak.
Our first reports are as a result of the wind damage to the tanks. The tanks lost their lids. The wind blew, essentially drove the oil out of the tanks. Firstly, on the ground, in the bunded area, which is a contained area that is designed for spills and sloppage and wastage. And then outside of the bunded area, meaning outside of those containment walls, and then further into the forest, which with lessening degrees of severity, the further away you move from the source. And then in addition to that, during air reconnaissance and surveys, we can confirm that there's a slip near Little Abaco that we presume may come from the source. We have no concrete evidence, but we're responding to it in any event to deal with it.
Acknowledging that the situation is complex and challenging, management of Equinor issued a statement noting that resources are being mobilized to safeguard people, the environment, and the facility. They say damage to infrastructure is hampering progress in relief and response efforts. Equinor says the size of the spill is not yet clear, but notes that based on current visual assessments, there are no indications of continued oil leakage from the tanks or of oil spills from the terminal to sea or beaches. However, the company says a further examination is ongoing to assess the full impact of the spill. Security personnel are on site at the terminal working to secure the area and identify potential hazards. Equinor says it secured vessels and equipment for oil spill response in Port Fortune, Louisiana, and from various ports across southeast Florida. Some are now en route, and upon arrival, cleanup and remediation will start immediately. Now, the area member of Parliament, Deputy Prime Minister, the Honorable K. Peter Turnquist, says he has monitored the Equinor oil spill since its occurrence, and early assessments indicate that there is no cause for alarm. Turnquist notes that he remains in touch with the public and the private sector environmental experts and East Grand Bahama residents. The DPM will issue an official statement on the spill tomorrow. The Grand Bahama Power Company working overtime to restore electricity to Grand Bahama. Some areas have already been energized, but for consumers who incurred flood damage, restoration could take some time. Jamila Mizik reports.
After a week of intense effort by their employees, Grand Bahama Power Company President and Chief Operating Officer David McGregor says GBPC was able to safely restore power to several areas in Freeport and 8 Mile Rock that were not severely impacted by flooding from Hurricane Dorian. He says they're now working with the Grand Bahama Port Authority to safely restore areas that have been damaged by flood water.
So we managed to put what we call express feed through, which is bypassing everything else and just getting power to the hospital. So we managed to do that last night, which was great. It was important we also got as much accommodation on as possible. So Pelican Bay Hotel, we managed to restore last night. We got power into the Grand Lucayan complex. So that'll release some space. We're working on some other hotels today specifically to give space for displaced persons and aid workers, etc., etc. So pleased about that. Actually, our next focus, working with the government on this, is the schools. So most of the schools, apart from a couple, have now been cleared for re-energization from a flood perspective, which is great news. So we'll be working over the next couple of days to get power onto the schools
He says it is really important from a safety perspective for persons to have their homes inspected before electricity can be restored.
I mean, the problem with the flooding here is it was seawater, it was salt water. Salt is a conductor of electricity, so even though everything looks dry, when the electricity comes, it will travel through the salt to ground and trip off. Best case trip off, but worst case create an unsafe situation around the house, and components that are not normally live could become live. So it's really important that you get that salt cleaned out of your house. You get a licensed electrician from the Port or the Port Authority to come and inspect your house. And as soon as that's done, and as soon as there's power in the area, we'll be able to energize the home.
The COO says since Hurricane Matthew, GBPC has spent an additional $5 million each year to storm harden their system, and as a result, a lot of poles were replaced, which lessened the number of downed poles during Hurricane Dorian.
And I think that the number of poles you see standing is going to be perhaps a little frustration for customers. They say, hey, we got all these poles standing, I got no power. Well, the problem is the power needs to come from our power station, which is working. Our new power station is working. Our old power station was underwater, and we're cleaning the salt off to make it safe and trying to figure out, our electrical equipment. But the new power station is working. But the power needs to get from there. It goes into substations, of which we have 8. At least half of those were impacted by salt and water, so we're cleaning those up. We've got, I would say, 3 or 4 of those running now, and that's why we could get light on last night, and we'll get more light on today. But the other 2, one down our power plant and one right behind us here, are still being decontaminated.
He says moving forward, GBPC will continue to restore electricity to safe areas, and with the help of the new teams arriving, their workforce will be doubled and truck capacity tripled to move things along a bit faster. He says updates will continuously be given via their Facebook page, and he's urging customers to be patient as they're doing all they can to restore electricity in neighborhoods as soon as it is safe to do so. Jamila Mizik, ZNS Network News.
A considerable amount of homes on Grand Bahama received flood and structural damage as a result of Hurricane Dorian stalling over the eastern part of Grand Bahama for nearly 2 days. A number of government offices are working together to begin assessments on those homes. The Assistant Director of Social Services, Paula Marshall, says whilst restoration may take some time, they're moving swiftly.
We're going to get a listing of those movements out to the public via social media as well as ZNets, so that persons will know that when we come into your area, so that you can be home in order to complete the hurricane assessment forms. The assessments have to be done by Social Services, the Ministry of Works, and Environmental Health to determine the extent of the damages that you have experienced. These assessment forms are now also a part of the NEMA process to determine how assistance will be given to you going forward. Social services should be able to give other assistance to persons within the community shortly, as soon as we can operate from another location. Our present location at Sun Plaza has been pretty much destroyed by Hurricane Dorian. So we are not in location there, but we will announce to the public very soon where we will be located, operating from, in order to give assistance to the public.
Some of the major stores in the business district incurring extensive flooding as well. As a result, stores remain closed as staff focus on cleanup efforts. Dolly Madison Home Center is one of them. Jamila Mizik reports.
Several businesses in the Queens Highway District are also victims of the strong impact of Hurricane Dorian, the recent Category 5 hurricane, which clobbered Grand Bahama for a period of 2 days. One of them include Dolly Madison Home Center, which is now inoperable. Dolly Madison General Manager James Roll says the business establishment has experienced flooding before, but this is the first of this magnitude.
Basically, we had about 7+ foot of water inside the store, which basically disrupted everything in our inventory, from our office furnitures to the store and hardware supplies straight through. There's no part of our store that has not been affected by the water. We've had floodings before, maybe 2-3 feet of water, which basically only deal with low-level merchandise. But this time, the high water rise basically affected just about every set of merchandise that we had on the shelves.
He says, unfortunately, they were not able to salvage any of the goods.
We are utilizing the employees to help with the cleanup method because we want to make sure that until we can get back up and running, however which way we can utilize our employees to ensure that they have something to account for their pay at the end of the week. We want to make sure that they're comfortable. Of course, in addition to our store being damaged, which affects the employees, quite a number of them have their personal damages at home to attend to. So again, we have to also be cognizant and sympathize and empathize with them because they are personally experiencing losses and at the same time, they're challenged with their job in terms of our operation and being able to have some place to go to work.
He says although there's no idea when they'll be fully up and running, they have considered a contingency plan and will be open sometime next week, but only offering goods for basic needs at this time.
As we know, it affects a whole lot of consumers out there, and at least we want to be able to get some part of our operation back up and running so that customers can have access to some key and good product that they need to use for everyday basic use.
Jamila Mizik, ZNS Network News.
And now to news from education, where the reopening of schools on Grand Bahama hinges on the restoration of water and electricity. The Ministry of Education is expected to make an announcement sometime tomorrow as to the way forward for public schools. Meantime, one private institution still trying to come to terms with the level of water damage at its facilities. As Jay Philippe tells us, Tabernacle Baptist Academy is working in overdrive to get classrooms back up and running in the shortest time possible.
Tabernacle Baptist Academy was one of many schools in Grand Bahama that was impacted by Hurricane Dorian.
We had some damages. We had slight roof damages, not much. Mostly, like you said, the problem was flooding. Lower floor flooded to about 3 to 4 feet, and the upper floor was perfectly fine. We have already gotten rid of all the flood waters. We have fumigated. We have trying to get ready for school again. The main thing we have to do is get the building ready for our port, licensing and approval.
Principal Edward Johnson says work has been going on at the school in preparation for its new opening date.
We're already about halfway completed with changing of the receptacles. So pretty soon we should have the school ready to go again. So we want to say to all of the Tabernacle parents, our Tabernacle supporters, the Tabernacle is fine. We are well on the way to the repairs. We have had international pledges from friends of Tabernacle all over the U.S., and we have already had pledge and donations to replace everything that was lost.
In addition to minimum structure damage, some of the school's equipment in the computer lab was also damaged. Johnson says those items will be replaced before the opening of school.
All of our computers have been donated, redonated, office furniture, building supplies, you name it. We already had pledges and donations coming in.
School is scheduled to open on Monday, September 23rd.
If everything runs smoothly, which it should, we have workmen already ready to dedicate their time to repair what needs to be repaired around the school, and so we should be ready on the 23rd.
I'm Jay Philippe, ZNS Network News.
The Anglican Central Education Authority and Bishop Michael Eldon School advising parents and guardians that every effort is being made to open Bishop Michael Eldon School as quickly as possible. Additionally, the Education Authority says accommodations have been made for those parents who sustained severe damage to homes and are sending their children to relatives in Nassau. You are asked to report to the Education Office in Nassau on Sands Road to make arrangements for your child to be accommodated at St. John's College or St. Anne's School. Now on to Sunland Baptist Academy. Parents of students enrolled at Sunland Baptist are invited to attend a meeting at the school tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. That's a meeting for parents at Sunland Baptist Academy at 5:30 tomorrow evening. A number of international partners like Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines providing a hot meal for residents of Grand Bahama in the wake of Hurricane Dorian. Jubilee Cathedral offering breakfast and lunch to those in need. Jay Philippe takes us there.
Thank you for the food that we're about to eat. We pray that you bless it, nourish it.
The Christian community is stepping up in a major way to assist Grand Bahamian residents affected by Hurricane Dorian. One of those churches is Jubilee Cathedral, led by Pastor Laquez Williams, has offered to prepare and serve free breakfast and lunch for residents in need.
Well, the Bible says, when I was hungry, you fed me. When I was naked, you clothed me. Here's a time our people are very hungry on this island, and instead of being inside the four walls, it's time to go out. So here's an opportunity. We've been around, we've been affected, but more than us, what's more important than us is the people. And we see the people have been affected, so we're trying to find a means just to help them to get something to eat. And I think just having breakfast and having lunch is just something that we plan to do as long as we could.
Laquez says that he knows that the need is great in the Grand Bahama community and the church has a major role to play in helping.
However, whoever can do their part, that's all we're trying to do. We just a little small end of the year. We want to make our contributions to the community, and this is what we're trying to do.
Breakfast and lunch will be served twice a day at the church grounds on Cathedral Boulevard.
You can come either for 9 or come for 11, but try not to come for both because we want to make sure, try to stretch it as much as possible. But we have food here. As long as the food remains, we want to make sure that people could get. But once you get here, no matter who you are, we want to make sure that you can eat.
David Hoyt, a native of Grand Bahama who resides in Dallas, Texas over the past 17 years, has been instrumental in this feeding initiative. His organization in the United States of America was more than happy to help persons in need.
Yesterday was a priceless moment when we actually went through the community and drove on the bus and went and just started, blowing the horn, and people were just coming out of their homes, coming, for water, food, didn't have anything. So, that there was, a priceless moment where people didn't have that, and it was a blessing to be able to help out in that way.
I'm Jay Philippe, ZNS Network News.
The island of Abaco still reeling from a devastating blow dealt by Hurricane Dorian. It was the first island in the country to feel the brunt of the storm. Tonight we take you inside the government's clinic that was quickly transformed into a shelter when residents just could not find anywhere else to go. Let's take a look.
You keep us all out of here alive and continue to strengthen us, because this is what we need right now. Only God can help us right now.
Thousands of residents on the island of Abaco crying out for shelter and assistance immediately following Hurricane Dorian over 1 week ago. On Monday, September 2nd, as winds and rain continued to be down, leaders of the emergency management team and Member of Parliament for North Abaco, the Honorable Darren Henfield, visited the clinic, which now housed hundreds of persons seeking a safe haven.
And then let you know as much as we know.
We later met Preston Roberts, who told us his son was the only reason he and his friends fought for their lives during the storm.
We took a back road, SC Boodle. We got stuck in the car because the hurricane got back so quick. We had to stay in the car full of water. At that time, the car get flooded, so we had to come out, hold on the car, the seat belts, while in the middle of the hurricane. She was wild. This the only little, this right there, this little boy keep us alive. Me and my boys right there. The same little boy keep us alive. Real talk. Everybody was then talking about they get dead. I say, no way, you got to tug it out. She's solid.
The house that you guys need to evacuate?
The wall came out first. The first thing happened was the window flew out. Then the whole wall get yuck out the wall. Off the house. Then the roof flew off. It's crazy.
What is the plan now after?
More we trying to get out here. Anything. Once we get off the island right now, get to someplace solid, that'll be better.
In the days following the deadly storm that destroyed countless homes, residents from throughout Abaco would be seeking shelter in any structure that withstood the 200+ miles per hour winds. The local clinic would inadvertently become a shelter. These residents say they were displeased with the treatment of the nurses.
And I just began to call out the name of the Lord. And I called out, Jesus, 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 please save us, get us to shelter. Shortly after that, we looked outside and the wind subsided a little bit. And so we were able to run across to the neighbors and then noticed that their roofs were compromised as well. So after that, we ran to the shelter that was, designated as a shelter, which is Caps Primary School. And that was totally destroyed. Persons were trying to find some shelter. We went to my church. We go to Lateran Church on Boodle Highway. That was also compromised. So we were just trying to find refuge somewhere. Then we came here to the clinic. When we got here to the clinic, hundreds of persons, Haitian nationality as well as Bahamians, all pushing to get inside. And once we got in, it was totally devastating. Persons were all in the hallway. We were able to get pictures. Right now, we're staying in the isolation room in the clinic. It's room 172, and there's about 14 of us in a small room. We lie down like, sardine in a can.
The nurses inside here have been disrespectful, nothing but stink and insensitive during this time. And they've said stuff like, this is not a shelter, this is still a hospital, and it's been crazy.
Now doctors and nurses on the island, no doubt under tremendous pressure as they fought to save lives, bandage wounds, and care for thousands of persons 24/7. The local clinic would also turn into a launching pad as countless helicopters would land just feet away, some bringing in life-saving medicine and equipment, others evacuating the critically ill. This international group rushing to the aid of local Abaconians.
We have a small team, but we just wanted to come out and do what we could to assist everybody. This is a really tragic event, and you can see a lot of devastation around us, so we're just hoping to be able to help a little bit.
Talk about some of the supplies.
So we're bringing in a couple chainsaw teams. We just brought in a doctor this morning. He brought in insulin, some medical supplies to help out with the hospital. We're hoping to bring in some water and food later today by boat as well.
How long have you guys been in operation, and how does Abaco compare to some of the things you've seen in other countries?
We've been around for about 3 or 4 years now, so this is actually our third response to the Bahamas itself. We were here for Hurricane Matthew, then Hurricane Irma. We were in the Turks and Caicos for Hurricane Maria, and this is the worst we've seen.
Now we also spoke to Donnelly Cornish, a native Grand Bahamian who was now dealing with death on the island of Abaco, while also fearing the worst for family members back home in Freeport.
What is going to happen next? I have people in Freeport that I have not heard from that time. Okay? Now, everybody know from east to west, north to south, this island has been affected. No homes has not been affected. Okay? And everybody know there's dead bodies floating still in the waters, because I have family members that are passed. And my thing is, I don't know what's happening in Freeport. And that is my concern right now. I'm here and I'm alive, and I'm grateful to God for being here. But we need to know what is going to happen next. Are we going to be here or still on this island with 2 storms they say still is out there? Or are we going somewhere else? Let us know what's going to happen, because then there's a lot more dead bodies that's going to be here. People still dying in the clinic. We need some assistance. We need it quickly. I don't care who it is, but I'm even talking for the international community out there. Please come and help us. There's a lot. My husband is a construction worker, and there's a lot of homes that are here, second home owners. Y'all, please come to help us. We need your help.
Megan Shepard, ZNS Network News. The devastation brought on by Hurricane Dorian is being seen around the world. There are media representatives from various countries here in Grand Bahama to tell the story of Hurricane Dorian, the damage and recovery efforts. Italia Hall spoke with a few of them.
On Friday morning, All of the airports on Grand Bahama were packed with residents, government officials, as well as a large number of persons from international media outlets. Anchor and reporter Joe Rhodes of WSBN 7 News says he and his team arrived on the island on a cruise ship.
We're on a cruise ship that left out of Port of Palm Beach, and it arrived here this morning with what they estimate to be about 100 tons of food, water, and other supplies, generators that the people here on the island need. Also, a couple of hundred volunteers, as well as some medical staff that they were bringing over as well. Back home in the United States, it's pretty much been wall-to-wall coverage of what's happening over here. I even know that your coverage, we've been running it on our programming so that people can see exactly what is happening. Now that you're here, it's always one thing to see it on a screen and then to see it in person as well. I mean, you see the devastation. It is catastrophic. Heard everybody refer to it as their brothers and sisters in the Bahamas. Our station is helping to raise funds by putting the word out there. There are so many charities that are trying to raise things and then get them over here as well. And that's been a big chunk of our coverage too. So the response really has been overwhelming, just like it would be if it was a city in the United States as well.
Reporter and anchor Louis Edgary of WPLG, an ABC affiliate in South Florida, says the Bahamas is considered an extension of Florida, and it is a story that they are all interested in.
Personally, me and my family have been coming to the Bahamas for 40 years. I can't tell you the amount of love I have for the people here and for this country. So I'm trying to keep it together because I'm trying to be objective, but this is extremely emotional for me because I love the Bahamian people. I love them. They've always treated me with such kindness and compassion and with warmth, and we want to get the word out. We want to show the world what's happening here to get you guys the help that you need. And we want you to know that we're with you. We're on board with you, your family. You're not our neighbors. You are our brothers. You are our sisters. The devastation is awesome, and this is just the beginning of it. This is just Grand Bahama International Airport. I understand that the deeper we go into Grand Bahama, the devastation just gets worse. But what kills me is to hear the personal stories of so many people that I met at Freeport, waiting, hoping against hope to leave tonight because the situation is desperate. No food, no water. There are small children. There are medical issues. People need help.
Talia Hall, ZNS Network News.
Now, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs announcing that due to the impact of Hurricane Dorian that greatly affected residents of Grand Bahama and Abaco, persons wishing to renew or replace their irregular or manual passport, which was damaged or lost during the storm, can do so by visiting the passport office in New Providence. Persons whose passports were damaged are asked to take the damaged passport and 2 passport-size photos when applying for a replacement passport. Persons whose passports were lost during the hurricane are asked to take 2 passport-size photos. Fees to expedite the renewal or replacement of passports will be waived for applicants. First-time applicants will have to produce relevant documentation in order to produce an irregular passport. In the midst of the death and devastation heaped on the country by dangerous Hurricane Dorian, we have some good news to report. A 28-year-old teacher who was feared missing at the peak of the storm has been found. Gaynell Williams telling ZNS News that she hung on to the vent of her apartment after the roof gave away. She says she wrapped her arms in the vent for about 36 hours. It is a heart-wrenching story. She said she sustained cuts and burns to her arms and is now seeking medical attention. Williams just moved to Grand Bahama from Abaco, and she says she is happy to be alive and eager to head back to the classrooms. And a happy ending indeed to the story of Gaynell Williams. That's going to do it for us here in the north, but be sure to stay tuned as the Bahamas Tonight continues. On behalf of the entire news team here in the north, I'm Megan Shepard.